Hi, I'm David Finch, and you're watching BatFacts.
Thanks, David. Welcome back to BatFacts. Everyone has their Batman. Everyone pieces together their own headcanon of their favorite stories, omitting those that don't fit their personal version of the character. And if your Batman is strictly the grounded, street-level vigilante detective Batman, the least far-fetched version of Batman, made popular by creatives like Christopher Nolan, I totally get it. That can encompass many of his best stories. But if your Batman has room for some crazy sci-fi adventures, some time-traveling, interdimensional, alternate reality hijinks, then you may have room for this Batman. This episode of BatFacts, I'm talking about Flashpoint Batman, aka Thomas Wayne. The story of Flashpoint Dr. Thomas Wayne is not your typical Batman story. The fact that I have to qualify it as Flashpoint Thomas Wayne indicates that we're not talking about the standard philanthropist doctor murdered outside of a movie theater Thomas Wayne. Some details are the same, but the rest are scrambled. To start, the story of Flashpoint Batman starts off as a Flash story. Just as Wonder Woman is a window into the mythical, and Green Lantern is a window into the alien, The Flash is DC's most prominent window into time travel and multiverse storytelling.
Also, the Flash.
Also the what?
DC has never shied away from this premise, and has devoted entire publishing lines to stories that altered basic details of famous stories to interesting and often epic results. Barry Allen, the fastest man alive, in an attempt to save his mother from being killed, does what everyone in time travel stories warns against. He altered the events of the past. Once done meddling, he awakened to a world he recognized very little. On the bright side, his mother was still alive, but the butterfly effect had driven Atlantis and Themyscira into a bitter war that ravaged Europe. To get answers, Barry sought out the world's greatest detective, and found somebody else entirely. This Batman, as Barry comes to understand, is alternate reality version of Thomas Wayne that, instead of being murdered before Bruce's eyes, saw Bruce get murdered before his. In the aftershock of these tragic events, Thomas tracks down Joe Chill and viciously beats him to death. Heart blackened by tragedy and emboldened by his own vigilante justice, Thomas dons a cape and cowl, becoming a more ruthless, savage version of Batman. Martha, on the other hand, falls to the depths of grief, eventually becoming the disturbed nihilist, the Joker. Created by Flashpoint orchestrator Jeff Johnson, designed visually by Andy Kubert, this Batman's color scheme included red highlights, along with shoulder spikes and glowing red eyes. He's harder edged. There's much darker stuff in his head. He's gone through a lot more than Bruce, Johns told Newsarama in 2011. This Batman is older, and he's much more angry. He's not the brilliant detective, he's a brilliant tactician. His motivations come from a different place, and how he acts on them. It's not what you'd expect from Batman, added Flashpoint Night of Vengeance writer Brian Azzarello. Along with his role in the primary Flashpoint series, DC also released Flashpoint Night of Vengeance, the aforementioned 3-issue expansion of Thomas Wayne's story by Azzarello and artist Eduardo Rizzo. The fun of this story is that you get to expand on the idea that, if something didn't work out the way it did, who would Batman be? Who would all these characters be if these things had worked out differently? That's what's exciting to me about the project, Azzarello told Newsarama in 2011. In this story, Thomas's war on crime is funded by his own Wayne Casino, with Oswald Cobblepot playing the Alfred role, Selina Kyle as his wheelchair-bound Oracle, and Commissioner Gordon of Gotham's privatized police force being one of his only allies. Meant to run parallel to the events of the primary Flashpoint story, this tale also centers on Thomas's newfound knowledge of the alternate timeline where he dies and Bruce lives to be Batman, and struggles with the existential quandary of altering time to cancel out his own existence. To kill his whole world to save one where Bruce lives. In the aftermath of Night of Vengeance's conclusion, Thomas makes his decision. And in the epic final battle of Flashpoint, takes up an Amazonian battle sword and impales the momentarily still Reverse Flash, killing him, and thus negating his ability to create this universe. Before being blinked out of existence, Thomas hands Barry Allen a letter addressed to Bruce Wayne, whom it's delivered to in the story's conclusion. And that's how it stayed. Flashpoint begot the New 52 in 2011, and Thomas's letter remained behind a glass case in the Batcave for years, a thoughtful memento of Flash's most excellent adventure through time.
Excellent!
The character and storyline were remembered fondly and immortalized in action figures, merchandise, video game character skins, and the animated feature Justice League The Flashpoint Paradox, where Batman is played by Trainspotting's Kevin McKidd. Then in 2016, actor Jeffrey Dean Morgan appeared in a brief, single-word cameo as Thomas Wayne in Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Rumors ran wild at the time that Morgan's involvement cemented his casting as Flashpoint Batman should that popular story ever get turned into a feature film. The actor has repeatedly said he is willing to revisit the character and is down to don the cowl if called upon, and Ezra Miller's still developing Flash film is at times said to be adapting elements of the Flashpoint story. These rumors and speculations have of course bolstered fan art of Jeffrey Dean Morgan in the Flashpoint suit ever since. Later, in 2016, DC Rebirth happens, and Batman discovers a mysterious blood-splattered happy face button in his cave. Many comic readers will recognize this button as being from the seminal Watchmen series. Here it is worn by the comedian, played in the film by Jeffrey Dean Morgan. This was part of a recent initiative to cross over Watchmen characters with the DC proper, and this opportunity was also used to revisit another popular storyline. While investigating this mysterious button, Batman casually places it next to a powerful DC artifact, the Medusa mask, recently confiscated from its typical owner, the emotion-controlling, multiverse-tampering psychopirate. And its proximity causes a lightning reaction. Suddenly and momentarily, Batman is staring another Batman in the face, his father, Thomas Wayne. To help him make sense of all of this, Batman calls on someone with experience in items being displaced from space and time, the Flash. But beating Flash to the proverbial punch is a very alive Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, himself no stranger to tampering with the multiverse, of course being the catalyst for Flashpoint. In the 60 seconds it takes for Flash to finish his superhero work and head over, Thawne pummels Batman, destroys Thomas's letter, steals the button, speeds away, and comes back looking like Emil from RoboCop, claiming to have seen God before disintegrating. Needless to say, Flash walked into a lot. Once Batman recuperates, the two heroes take a trip on another classic DC artifact, the Cosmic Treadmill, and wind up stranded in a mysterious alternate Batcave. And soon the two Waynes are face to face once more. It turns out the Flashpoint universe, home to Thomas Wayne, Batman, and the further escalating Amazonian-Atlantean War, was not negated from existence as originally thought. While Flash works on fixing the damaged Cosmic Treadmill, Bruce and Thomas have a proper father-son team-up, and do what Waynes do, apparently. We fight. Once the Cosmic Treadmill is repaired, Bruce pleads with Thomas to accompany him back. But Thomas drops a bomb on Bruce in return, urging Bruce to stop being Batman, to be a father to his son, and to let Batman die with him, to find happiness. Soon the two are separated once more, and an invigorated Thomas Wayne runs boldly into the fray, exclaiming, "We rise," before the Flashpoint universe once again disappears. And again, that's how it stayed. Jeff Johns' Rebirth provided an opening for a brief revisit into the world of Flashpoint. But in this, we also saw clues of what's to come. The DC universe wasn't quite finished with Flashpoint Batman, and in his next incarnation, he officially turns heel. In 2018, Tom King would hit the midway point of his Batman story with Batman issue 50, the would-be wedding between Batman and Catwoman. And while it contained many surprise twists and turns, perhaps none topped the final panel, where we see Bane's assembled crew, and standing among them, most confusingly, is Thomas Wayne. They say that the villain is always the hero of their own story, and for Thomas Wayne of the Flashpoint universe, he just wants to save his only son from a life of misery. A misery he himself knows all too well. Finding himself lampooned in a nightmare where his son is both alive and living what he sees as a life of unhappiness as Batman, Thomas aligns himself with the criminal mastermind Bane, himself planning a multi-pronged attack against the Dark Knight in an attempt to force him out of the cape and cowl for good. With a new sense of purpose, Thomas repeats the solemn vow, "I swear, by the spirit of my parents, to protect your life by spending the rest of my life warring against anything that might cause you pain." Reappearing in an ominous right-hand man role for several appearances, Thomas finally shows his hand when he kidnaps Bruce, leaving Gotham to fall to Bane. Bruce awakens on horseback, with a Thomas Wayne that looks like a Batman v Superman fan, dragging a coffin through the desert. This was Thomas's final intervention to stop Bruce from being Batman. Visually, Mikhail Janin's artwork is stunning, in what looks like a team-up between Nightmare with a K Batman and shirtless but still masked Batman. We learn they're somewhere far outside Gotham, headed for a Lazarus pit, often used in DC stories to bring back the dead. And the coffin they're dragging? Martha Wayne. This adds a macabre element to Flashpoint Thomas Wayne and his new motivations. Bruce gets the better of the old man, saving Martha's body from any further tomfoolery, but ultimately the ending of their battle is left ambiguous. The story was released just as DC announced that Tom King's long-planned 105-issue run was now coming to an end at issue 85. Suddenly, King found himself having to finish his long-planned story in one-third of the time, and as a result, this story felt disconnected from King's finale, City of Bane. Bruce would eventually return to Gotham City under the control of Bane, where Thomas and Gotham Girl are the dark mirrors of Batman and Robin, hunting villains like Scarecrow and Kite Man. Cracks begin to form in Bane's alliance with Thomas Wayne, and soon Thomas double-crosses Bane, showing that his will to stop Bruce from being Batman was stronger than Bane's desire for revenge against the Dark Knight, by non-fatally shooting Bane. Thomas had usurped City of Bane's Big Bad title right from under its titular character. Batman 85 is entirely devoted to Thomas, and gives us the clearest picture yet into his ominous motivations. Told in a Memento-esque backward style, the issue revisits key moments from Thomas's history, including Fallen the Fallen, The Button, Night of Vengeance, and Flashpoint. We see a Batman that is never at peace, even after violently vanquishing many of his enemies, including Flashpoint Kite Man. Thomas's story is undoubtedly a tragic one. But ultimately, it's this life that sets him apart from the Thomas Wayne that Bruce once knew. And it's belief in this that allows Bruce to prevail, proclaiming simply, "You're not my father." We later see Thomas shackled in a facility, defeated. Once he gives the word, an emotionally broken Thomas Wayne gets physically broken by a less than forgiving Bane. And that's where he stays, until his next adventure in the Batman universe. The mainstream DC universe currently harbors both an alternate reality Bruce Wayne and an alternate reality Thomas Wayne, both from different alternate realities and brought over via different methods. The Batman Who Laughs has nothing to do with Flashpoint Batman, but it says something about how quote-unquote grounded Batman stories have been lately, with its mainstream continuity fully embracing time travel, multiverses, the butterfly effect, the space-time continuum, and so on. It gets further and further away from the supposedly preferred urban vigilante. Sometimes comics can be really weird, but I wouldn't have it any other way. If you liked the video, please make sure to like and subscribe. I post the videos on the Batman subreddit on the day of their release, and upvoting them is another great way to spread the word. And stay tuned for the next episode, where I'm continuing the Robin series, talking about Jason Todd, the Robin that died. Some bat time, same bat channel. Thanks for watching.